Hi, my name's Kath, and today's daily pattern is from Genesis chapter 17, which is where God and Abraham set up the covenant of circumcision, which was such a huge part of Jewish identity over the generations and now. I'm not an expert on male circumcision. I'm not going to pretend that I am, but I have read a very long piece of research by the World Health Organization about global trends in male circumcision. So I know a little bit more than I did last week. And according to this research, about a third of men worldwide are circumcised for all sorts of different reasons: religious reasons, cultural reasons, medical reasons, some other reasons that you can read about if you'd like to. And I'm just going to say it's not the same as female circumcision, female genital mutilation, FGM. They might be described in similar ways if you look up their definition, and they're both steeped in culture and tradition in different parts of the world, in different cultures. But FGM is a way of increasing gender inequality. It's a form of violence against women, and there's significant health problems, physical and psychological health problems associated with it. It's universally considered completely unacceptable by various global health bodies. So we're not talking about FGM, we're talking about male circumcision, which comes with a far less degree of psychological and physical health issues attached to it, and is quite a widespread practice. The reason that Abraham enters into this covenant of circumcision isn't for any of the many reasons written by the World Health Organization in their research, but actually it's because of something much deeper, much more intimate, much more personal, much more connected to Abraham's identity even than circumcision. It's because of God's promise to Abraham, God's agreement to Abraham, God's covenant with Abraham, that he is going to have a legacy. He is going to be the father of many nations. He is going to be the head of a family that will continue for generations, and will be a huge family, and will be a family that's blessed to be a blessing to others. And that's a family that we are part of. That's where Abraham's identity needs to come from. Not from circumcision, but from God's covenant, God's promise, God's provision to Abraham. And for us too, I'm sure we're tempted sometimes to get our identity from the stuff that's on the outside. Whereas actually for Abraham, it doesn't come from the stuff that's on the outside. It comes from the stuff that's on the inside, the stuff that God's put in him. In Genesis chapter 15, Abraham enters into the covenant not through circumcision initially, but actually through faith, by believing that God's going to do this, that God's going to follow through. And just like Abraham, his identity comes from what's on the inside and his faith. Our identity needs to come from what's on the inside, what God's saying to us, what God's got for us, what our story looks like, what our relationship with God is like, not from the stuff that's on the outside. Although that stuff is important as well, and our identity on the outside is important as well. But actually maybe today, when you're thinking about male circumcision, as you may well be now, distracted by the rest of the day, let's think about what's on the inside, not just what's on the outside, and what's God's promise to us, what God's growing in us, and what God's doing inside us today.